open to you engaging with my guest. And of course, social media would be available as well for that. So use the hashtag Morning Rave, tweet at the Rave TV channel. The phone numbers and the WhatsApp number to text with, as well as the phone number to call with, would be available in a moment. This is a big story. Kingsley Bass is my name. You meet my guest in a moment. Do stay here. Hi, babe.
Hey, you're still streaming?
Yeah.
What movie are you watching?
Celebrity Marriage.
Would you mind if I buy you data?
For what?
I mean, I notice you stream a lot.
Oh, no. I use Super TV. I stream movies and TV shows with zero data.
Super what?
Yeah, Super TV. You should download the app.
Enjoy flexible and affordable subscription packages on Super TV. Download now to start your tryout version. Available on Google Play Store and App Store. Super TV. Watch TV, not your data.
Welcome back. This is a big story. You're live on Rave Television, reaching you live from a Lagos studio, and we're glad to have you. Kingsley Bass is my name. It's time to meet my guest. He's the presidential candidate of, well, you want to call it whatever you like, but some say the third force, or one of the third forces. Choose whatever description you choose you like as regards that. But my guest today is the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, called the AAC. I'm talking about Omoyele Sowore. Very good morning to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning and happy Boxing Day to your viewers and Nigerians at home and wherever you might be watching us.
Fantastic. Thanks for finding time to join us this holiday.
Thank you.
How much of enjoyment do you have in this holiday?
None. There's nothing to enjoy because life is very hard for Nigerians, and I'm not an exception. Just like you mentioned when we started this show today, there is no fuel, there's no petrol, gasoline to move around the city. I've listened to a lot of people talk about skyrocketing prices of goods, services, food, and a lot of people simply can't go back to their towns, cities, and villages because of insecurity. A lot of people don't feel secure enough to go home. So, what is sad about this is that when I was watching TV yesterday, I'm thinking you could almost always read the same news every year during Christmas and put a new date, fix new prices, and it's been the same ever since I was conscious enough to watch TV around Christmas. And it's very sad that things keep getting worse and worse in Nigeria for Nigerians, especially those 133 million Nigerians who have been pushed into abject poverty by different regimes, but particularly the regime of Muhammadu Buhari, who turned Nigeria to the global capital of poverty. It's sad.
All right, we'll get back to some of the things you've mentioned: fuel scarcity, the hoarding of fuel, and some of the challenges around that. But I'd like to get your assessment of campaigns so far for some political parties, if you like, the big wigs. We've seen rallies, we've seen town hall meetings. I don't seem to find you anywhere except for those organized by certain organizations, maybe TV houses. What's happening? It feels like you're not campaigning. Is that the case?
No, of course I'm campaigning. I changed strategy.
Okay.
We are a very innovative group of young people. Well, not young as in within the age range of youth, but people with fresh, younger ideas within the political system. For instance, in 2018, 2019, when I ran for the first time, I was one who brought a strategy of crowdfunding, asking people to donate and raise a lot of money. Now everybody is doing that, especially those who want to go the route of carrying the public along with their campaigns. What we decided to do this time around is that this idea of bringing poor Nigerians, paying them peanuts and putting them in the hot suns or rain to talk to yourself is not respectable. So we decided that we'll go the route of talking to professionals. So we've spoken to professionals in architecture, in the medical field. I spoke at the ICANN event this year. I was in Calabar to talk to architects. Last week, I was in Asaba to talk to medical doctors. I've attended a lot of, I went to schools. I went to a university in Ondo State, Southern Ondo State, to talk to students. These are the relevant bodies that listen to presidential candidates or candidates in general and contribute ideas and also ask questions from us, real questions. So we didn't want to continue this idea of echo chamber rallies where you go and hire people, and I can bet you that you've never heard the presidential candidate say something that you can even note down at a rally. It's always muddled up. You bring in musicians, comedians, and then the presidential candidate comes. You barely hear what he's saying. Those outside don't hear what they're saying. The person talking doesn't even know what he's saying. It's just mumbo jumbo. So we decided that we would go to the grassroots, talk to people, use social media as much as we can, because whether we like it or not, social media has become part of our political life. So, but I don't have the kind of money to throw around to go and hire people to be at a rally. Even though we've had what we call people assembly, we had one in Kano, and we'll continue in January. So I know what big rallies are all about. It doesn't mean anything to even the people who organize the rallies. It doesn't. So, and the landscape is changing.
For some persons would argue otherwise, and that's because they say that shows the popularity of the candidate. At least if you can bring people together in one space and...
I didn't want to buy people. That's what I'm saying. Bringing people together doesn't make you popular, because you can, having weaponized poverty in Nigeria, you can find 1 million people to be at a rally for a particular political party, and the same people will be available for another rally tomorrow for a different political party. Everybody should know that by now. It has nothing to do with conviction. It's poverty. People are hungry, so you go and pay them to meet you. You give them uniform, T-shirts. I am not saying that they are totally useless. I'm just saying that in terms of my priority and where we want to apply the little resources we have for this election, we don't want to deceive people that a rally means that people are popular. No, an average rally in Nigeria is a sign of your ability to buy people who are poor, to come and stand in the rain or sunshine, or drum, greet, meet, eat. Sometimes they fight over the little you share with them. We've seen all this all the time. I just don't. My conscience will allow me to go and, keep insulting people who are already denigrated and degraded by the political system. Yes.
All right. Let's talk about your plans for Nigeria. You're running for the #1 seat in the country, and you're looking to replace President Muhammadu Buhari. Why should any Nigerian vote for Omoyede Sowore?
Well, the first reason is that anybody who has survived the Buhari regime in the last 7 years was just presenting an option that says, look, there's a chance for you to bail out of the misery that has been the hallmark of that regime. But most importantly, and this is key for me and for us in our political party, is to decide conclusively that we want people who are capable, people with character, people who have, who are cognizant of their environment, people who have great records, and people who can stand up for Nigerians when they need them to be voted as leaders of this country. Educated people, people who have exposure, and people who understand the problems afflicting the country and who have the will and the capacity to deal with these problems, and who also have the presence of mind, and the physical and mental health to solve Nigeria's problems, because all these things are important. But part of what has slowed down Nigeria's progress in the last few years that I have witnessed is that we keep voting for the same people who have wrecked states, who have destroyed the federal system, people who have ruined your educational system, your healthcare system, people who don't care about you. You keep voting for them. There's this I use it frequently about the forests and the trees holding a meeting that they want a leader, and they decided that they should vote for the axe. And when one wise tree asks why the axe, he said its handle is made of wood. And since they voted for the axe, the forest kept being depleted. That's what has happened to Nigeria. You are like an army of lions led by a sheep. It's different from an army of sheep led by a lion. Apparently the one led by a lion will be more respected than the one led by a sheep, even if they are lions. So let Nigerians reach that point. Let them search in their conscience that they want to end their misery by voting. I hear it all the time. Oh, Sowore is good, this person is good, but they can't win. What makes leaders win is your vote.
And you mentioned something.
If you don't vote, you are voting for the axe. If you vote for the axe, you are going to get depleted. That's the truth.
And you mentioned something about persons with records, capable hands, and the rest. Let's talk about records. A lot of the presidential candidates that we've seen contending with you have campaigned on records. Some being past governors, some, for example, we have a former vice president running again, and then they mention some of these records. What records can you boast of that Nigerians can look at and say, oh, maybe I should look in the direction of this man?
Yes. So, the ones that you mentioned, I will analyze them very quickly. There's a presidential candidate who has been in office as a minister, governor for 8 years. He has been a senator. I'm talking about Kwakwanso. He has been in since 1999. I think Kwakwanso has been in government. He was at one time a minister of defense under Obasanjo, and then he went on to become the governor of Kano State for 2 terms. I think he was then a senator for about 4 years. You ask yourself his records, his length, the longevity of his presence in government. What has he done for his people? What has he done for Nigeria? What did his tenure as Minister of Finance and Minister of Defense done to make Nigeria a well-defended country? None. There's one who was governor of Lagos, it's Bola Tinubu. 8 years. What is the Lagos he created? The Lagos that goes underwater after like 3 hours of rain. One of the dirtiest cities in the world, one of the poorest cities in the world. So what record are we talking about?
His supporters say he built Lagos.
he bet Lagos. When I came to Lagos in 1986, Lagos was better than this.
Really?
Yes. There were traffic lights in Festac. Festac had like playgrounds. There was water up to whichever floor you were. I used to go and stay with my uncle in Festac town. All these things were functioning. When I arrived at the University of Lagos in 1989, the University of Lagos had permanent electricity. There's even a substation at the University of Lagos. We had water. We used to there was the force of water, public water, was too much. We used to complain of too much water. In fact, my room in Jaja Hall used to have so much water, they call it water palace, because there was so much water it would be falling down, it was cascading down the stairwell. Of course, those were the beginnings of how these things were destroyed. And they were told that some people who wanted to introduce bottled water went and messed with the Lagos water system. All this Ebutemeta, Lupeju, they all had access to public water. So anybody who claimed he created Lagos, the Lagos with no public water, no sensible public transportation, with no sewage, no policy to clean the city, no electricity. Anybody that said that he bettered that Lagos, the person should be in prison. I'm serious. They actually came and ruined Lagos particularly since 1999. Maybe the younger generation will not understand what I'm saying, but there are people who are watching now who were born before 1999 who tell you that Lagos was better than this before.
And so
this whole Ilupeju area was an industrial area, not churches. There's warehouses. There were schools for a lot of kids. They had mass housing in Lagos.
So are you discrediting the entire tag they call the blueprint of Lagos, which they say are best infrastructural development? There is the pride also in the revenue generation in Lagos, which is credited to the candidates you're
So what is the essence of generating revenue that goes into private pockets? What's the pride in that? No, tell me what they did with the big revenues they generated. They're stealing it. Somebody who owns half of the state in terms of landmass and couldn't explain how he came about it. A former governor, when he was actively a governor, was engaging in collecting taxes and taking his own percentages. Over 150 billion naira is what they get almost every year. They give the state paltry sum. They build roads and put tolls on them to make life miserable for the people who live in the city. They ensure that thugs have taken over law enforcement, and toll collection, harassment, and enforcers all over the place. Maybe if you've been to cities like Bogota, you understand, you've been to like Mexico and seen Mexico City, how these cities have progressed, even during the period of war or conflict. You will not let anybody say to you that this Lagos was on any blueprint. The only blueprint I see in Lagos is blueprint of larceny and public theft of what should belong to everybody. Lagos is supposed to be doing better than a lot of African countries. This is not a city built on any blueprint. This city is on autopilot, growing at its own pace. No planning, no sewage, nothing. The education system is in shambles. So, but they like to show off, Lagos. I categorize Lagos into two. There's a deodorized part of Lagos, and that is the part that they will put perfume on it and show it around. And then there's a ghettoized part of Lagos. And those are the most dominant blueprint that I see all over the place, the ghettos.
Talking about blueprints, what sort of prints would you, I don't know what color you would like to paint it and deodorize with, but what sort of prints are you hoping to stamp on the Nigerian state if you elected?
There are two categories in we have just released a manifesto of 402 pages that detailed, what we plan to do for Nigeria, but in a very short form. Let's just look at it from a point of addressing Nigeria's foundational problems, in which we intend to look at the Nigerian Constitution, junk it, the one that they have, that this is a military constitution, and create through a constitutional creation process or framing process, create a brand new constitution to solve a lot of the problems that came from the foundation of Nigeria. And the other one is, of course, institutional interventions. And this has to do with power, security, infrastructure, healthcare, agriculture, education, an economic system that is very inclusive, technology, and sustainability of the country. We want to create a country where kids can go to school. And the parents that are unable to send their children to school will be incentivized to do so. But if you still refuse, we will enforce a law that says you must send your kids to school, you face the law. But the state itself must bear responsibility for creating schools, creating hospitals, roads, so that people can freely enjoy what they desire as citizens of this country. What we have now is just a trial and error system, and we want to eradicate and end that.
How would you do that, though, considering that this administration has said there is not enough funds to cater for education? We've seen in the year 2022 that the academic staff union of universities, lecturers in federal universities went on strike, were home, and students were home for over 8 months.
9 months,
in the 12 months we have in the year.
Yeah.
How do you hope to do that?
They will be lying to you that they don't have resources to cater for education. But the same people have resources that can be freely stolen. You have an accountant general of the Federation who recently was revealed has stolen over 150 billion naira. So wherever he got that money from is the place we also look for money for education. You have an ongoing crisis in which the Central Bank of Nigeria is supposed to have frittered away some monies that came from people who are doing banking transactions, stamp duty fees. It's said to be 89 trillion naira. That's how big it is. I don't think it's that big, but it's a sizable amount of money. And you have a situation where even, you didn't mention it when you were reading what was happening last week. I think the biggest news of last week was the fact that the central bank governor was accused of terrorism financing. It's never happened before in the history of any country that a governor of the central bank will be declared wanted pretty much for terrorism financing. That's a big deal. And he's been accused of all kinds of shady dealings. There are monies that are supposed to go to the people. These guys are just sharing it with themselves and amongst themselves. You have a situation where Nigeria invested so-called bought shares in an uncompleted refinery in Lagos for $2.5 billion. Why can't we give that to us? Why can't that be used to fix our own refineries that are not working now? So I can tell you categorically that they're just lying to you. The reason is that they're not interested in education because the amount of money is used in sending their children to foreign universities can fix just one child, one of these privileged kids. The money they use in sending them to school per year can build 2 to 3 or 4 secondary schools. And I can break it down to you. Just tickets alone to go to the UK and come back, this is about £4,000. If you break it down to naira, which is about it, I think a pound is about 1,000 naira or more now. You get my point. You calculate £4,000 and see how far you can go. That's just for tickets. Their school fees ranges between £100,000 to 200. You have not added accommodation and feeding and pocket money. So, and they have lots of them out there going to big schools. In fact, I know of some of them that send their children to go to what we call primary schools here. And those primary schools are even more expensive than some UK universities, like Eton. They have their kids there. So why would they care about the children of the poor who are staying home for, if they like, a whole year? Because to be clear about 9 months is more than 2 semesters within the academic calendar.
All right. This is the big story. I've been speaking with the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Sowore, and he's been talking to me about plans he has and indeed the Nigerian state and what he hopes to do for you if you choose to elect him president. It is time for you to be part of the conversation, all right? If you have questions for this presidential candidate as we go through the election series here on the Big Story, you can call the number which will be on your screen in a moment. And of course, you can also send a WhatsApp message to the line which will pop on your screen and let me know what questions you have for him. And indeed, what you'd like to know, of him here as we continue the conversation. We'll get to some, points he has mentioned in his campaign promises, his manifesto, which he referenced and was recently released a few days ago. And then we'll talk some more about that as we take your calls and contribution. But let's go on a very short break. When we're back, 0906 000 5100 will be the number to call to be part of the conversation in a moment.
Get more information and updates on raveng.tv. Follow and interact with us on our social media platform using the handle @RaveTV channel. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel @RaveTV. Download the Rave TV app on iOS, Windows and Android to view us on the go. Rave TV. So exciting.
Welcome back to the Big Story here on the exciting station Rave Television. Kingsley Bass is my name, presidential candidate, African Action Congress, Sowore, here with me talking about his plans to replace President Muhammadu Buhari. And he's mentioned a lot already. We'll get talking some more as we now talk about precisely the 4 pillars that you've mentioned in your manifesto. First is the what you call security and peace, peace, and justice for all.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Just before we get talking about that, let's take calls and contributions because Nigerians need to engage with you,
Absolutely.
and which is one of the major things that we do here differently on the exciting station Rave Television. Good morning to you, comrade, calling from Lagos. How are you doing today? Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. All right, you do want to call back. 0906 000 5100 is the number to call as we engage in this conversation. Security, peace, and justice for all.
Yes.
That's one of the pillars, one of the major pillars you mentioned. Let's begin with that. What's your plan as regards security for many Nigerians? This, of course, is a major concern. You did reference in one of your comments, your opening comments precisely, that lots of persons cannot travel from cities, back to their villages and towns because of security concerns. What would you be doing differently? For different regions, the challenges differ. How do you hope to tackle this region by region?
So this is the reason why we broke it down to not just say security, that because there are some security challenges facing Nigeria that has something to do with injustice.
Okay, I'm sorry. Please hold your thought. Yeah. The caller is back on the line. Good morning.
Well, good morning.
Hi, good morning to you.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. This is Comrade from Lagos, yeah?
Yeah, this is Cornell from Lagos.
Cornell, yeah, thank you for calling Cornell. Cornell, what's your thoughts?
Well, first and foremost, I want to I want to commend the presidential candidate for all the good things, all the good plans he has for Nigerians. And I have to tell you for facts that if you look at the people who are contesting for the presidency of this country, he is one of the best. But the issue is, I don't think the power that be will really want him to get there, because I can recollect years back, myself and himself, we actually work against the satanic policies of Buhari administration. Myself and Charlie Boy, if you can recollect, that was at National Theatre.
Yes.
When Buhari came into power, he was the one that organized that work. Myself, I brought my people, and I brought Charlie Boy came in. We joined him to work against the economic hardship of the country. But if you look at the country now, those problems are still there. So, but what I want to ask him is, what is he going to do for the masses, specific when it gets to power? Because I know he is one of the best candidates that this country can have. He has the blueprints and he has the people. And the problem is whether the people that control the power will allow him to go in. That is my thought. But he is the best. I'm supporting him.
Thank you so much, Cornel, for your contribution. Let's allow Sowore respond to that.
Well, Cornel, just may wish you a happy Boxing Day today. You're probably one of the first people to come openly and reveal something that I never really talked about, that we're the first to organize a major protest against the Buhari regime. I wasn't the organizer. I joined at the last minute. If you recall, it was Tubaba that was supposed to lead that protest.
Oh, I remember that one.
So he chickened out. I hate to say it, but he last minute decided that he can't go out.
What happened, really?
We heard it was threatened, but nobody knew the true story to date.
Oh.
Yes, but it's apparent that he was heavily pressurized by the state. Because I know how the state operates. So I had to come in last minute to take the lead. And I invited Charlie Boy.
I'm so sorry, Sowore. We'll take all of this together in a moment, but let's maybe take one call and then we can merge that. All right, so we have Bukola calling from Ibadan. Good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. It's good to have you.
Really want to contribute on the program.
Yeah.
Like we all are really seeing the wonderful works that the AAC presidential candidate has been doing over time, and it's something we really appreciate. I mean, his consistency, him not being compromised, by corrupt politicians, and even just his voice in fighting the injustice, against the NSAS protesters, that has been mind-blowing for me personally. And I'm telling you, I'm one of the soldiers on ground that are pushing for somebody like Mr. Mayele Sowore to come into power. Although we all know the system, the corrupt system, are against, because they are threatened by his likes. But I want to tell you that rallies or no rallies, we have a lot of people that want his ideology, that want his vision in Nigeria, whereby our resources will actually benefit everybody and not just few people in power. That's what we want. We want a working country. We want it so much, because we know if Nigeria works, the whole Africa will work too. And it's minds like him that can make it possible. And we're just praying and hoping that it will come to pass.
All right. Thank you so much, Bukola. Yeah. So Bukola, she says she's one of the foot soldiers, pushing the message. You preaching. But you want to react to this, and then the first caller, Cornell.
Well, the first caller, let me just then quickly go to. He's talking about what we need to do for the masses, and these are clearly stated in our manifesto. You know, the short way we used to describe our manifesto is Spicer Heat. You know, and Spicer Heat is an acronym for security, power, infrastructure, anti-corruption, economy, restructuring, healthcare, education, agriculture, tourism, technology, and mass housing.
That's a handful.
Yeah. So, but these are things that needed to be done for Nigeria to get to that balance that we need for people to not have another Christmas like this. For Nigerians, especially young people, not to have to go on strike or, you know, be out of school for 9 months. For us not to, you know, be worried about getting from one destination to the other, not to have the kind of infrastructural deficit now that has made it impossible for Nigerians who broadcast from morning to night on Facebook. He's still a broadcaster. And some of them have more people watching their broadcast from their kitchen or bedroom than Arise TV, Rave TV, Channels TV combined sometimes. You see the numbers there because they are transparent. So you can't regulate the media anymore. That's why I think Zambia yesterday decided to abolish criminal libel laws. Because they realized that media is not you can't go and catch somebody who is in Switzerland or who is in London or the US. I practiced that kind of rebellious media before. You're wasting your time. They were also talking about financing of campaigns. They said, oh, Naira, how do we control Naira? You know, do you understand that there's a currency that is unregulated globally known as crypto? So a candidate can rely on that to bribe everybody. You don't know how to track it because it's unregulated. It exists in the dark world, you know. So the country has, you know, this country is way ahead of people running Nigeria. That's why we need digitally wired people who understand how the world is working. You know, what regulates media now is people who consume content.
All right, let's take WhatsApp messages, which is one of the channels we'll be working with. And we'll begin with this one, which says that to listen to Mr. Sowore saying Tinubu doesn't have antecedents and Lagos has not actually developed. Can he enlighten us? Is an antecedent as to why we should vote for him? That's from Nas. Nas texted from Gwagwalada in the Federal Capital Territory. Let's take some more before you respond to that. Good morning, Sowore. When you become the president of Nigeria, which I believe you will be, how are you going to cope with the PDP and APC in the Houses of Assembly and Senate? That's the second question. And then this third message says, good morning, Mr. Sowore. I'm Joanne from Asaba. That's the Delta State capital. And this one says, what do you have to say about the obedience who are always insulting and saying negative words to you, even on your platform? Can you please react to that? And please always delete their comments or block them from your page. Let's begin with the very first one. You know, that was one of my questions to you. Records, you know,
I think that's, you know, the first question was about Tinubu's running of Lagos.
Yeah, you dealt with that. But what's your record?
Yes, I have told you, our records come from all those parameters I listed: consistency, character, integrity. This way leaders, countries that are serious, look for leaders. They're not looking for people with broken records. Are you getting my point? You know, and Obama was was a senator for a few months. Mandela came from prison and became president of South Africa. The guy who is waging the war in Ukraine was a comedian, you know, but nobody sees him as a comedian anymore because he's waging some of the most hectic wars against a world power. You know, I'm not praising him, I'm just giving examples of how people, when they want leaders, they don't look for broken record, they look for people with character, look for vision, you know, visionaries. And when we talk visionaries, as I've almost said, it's not all these big men with, you know, thick lenses, you know. That's not vision. We're talking about people who have ideas, who have passion, people who understand what they want. I'll give you an example, which is a big record. When I was young in the university, our biggest problem was delivering democracy to Nigeria. a guy just mentioned it on TV that we did the first protest against Buhari. That democracy was difficult to do. Everybody was dragging the hair of their child, in this Lagos in particular, don't go and die in their war. And I was one of the few young people right around here. Dr. Becker Ransom Kuti's house and office is not far. Maria here, where we used to convert. Over 10 years, we delivered democracy to this country. That's a big deal. And that requires courage, it requires commitment, it requires consistency. And it's also an important tester to the fact that I am not going to compromise with whatever the pressure might be.
All right.
Yeah. So that's just one area. You know, I can give you several others.
Yeah, because of
things
time.
I've done consistently for 3 decades.
Because of time, because we need to go real soon. How would you cope with the Senate? That's one of the questions here.
The Senate and the House of Rep is the people. People sent them there. I'm working for the people. If they are the representative of the people, we won't have a problem. We'll work together. But if they are not representing the people will call them to order. You know, there's a process for calling your senators to order if they are not representing your interest. But I'm hoping that people are also voting for people with character in all these positions, so that we won't have to bump heads when we say we want to pay you minimum wage. The senator is collecting 15 million naira per month. He's complaining about 30,000 naira, you know, poor people are getting paid. Definitely there will be a problem with that. But we can definitely work with the Senate. It's not compulsory that we must control both, you know, arms of the houses. But we have candidates in some of these positions as well that are running in 2023. Vote for them as well, so we can have enough great hands that will make this country work. Because what I'm hearing from people is that we're voting for individuals, probably not political parties as such anymore. And then I wanted to quickly answer the fellow who said I should block people. I don't block anybody. You know, everybody is at liberty to join whichever political party, movement they call it. You can be obedient. I'm disobedient against authority, so we don't belong in the same.
So it's safe to say you're disobedient.
I've never been obedient towards any draconian system. So
all right, we've got to go, but we cannot without this last question, which is very critical. You are aiming to win an election, and elections happen by numbers, or at least winning an election happens by numbers. Some persons will question your popularity, especially in the core north, where they say the bulk of the votes come from, you know, at least from antecedent. What do you say about that? How do you hope to, you know, penetrate the north and win the hearts of northerners?
You know, our vice presidential candidate is a human rights lawyer from Kano, right? Kano has some of the biggest voting blocks in Nigeria, I think, apart from Lagos. So penetrating the north has already happened. We are in touch and working with communities in the north that you may not be aware of. So there are some things we're doing that we're not making noise about. Even in the southeast, where people say it belongs to a certain, we have candidates, we have support over there, because we have always been on the side of the oppressed, and they are spread all over this country. So our candidacy, my candidacy, is the candidacy of putting liberty on the ballot. I'm the candidate of the oppressed. I am the candidate who is trying to unite all the oppressed people, and they are the greatest voting bloc in Nigeria, north and south of the country.
Well, I did say that was the last question, but we'll go now and make this part of your party show. Someone just texted and said via WhatsApp, Mr. Sowore didn't move to 100,000 votes in 2019. You want to confirm that? What have you done in the last 3 years to make you feel like you're going to have more?
Because there was no election in 2019.
There was an election declared by the independent.
There was a selection, not selection. I've said it everywhere. You know, they just picked one guy that was in charge of INEC and the army. And
the Supreme Court confirmed those numbers.
Has Supreme Court ever been with the people of Nigeria when it comes to election?
Have they not been?
They have never been. There was a time the Supreme Court ruled that you don't need, serial numbers for ballot papers in this country under Yar'Adua. Even Yar'Adua came and said my election was rigged before he died. So, that's part of what needs to happen in Nigeria. Get rid of candidates who are put into office by judges. It should be the people. Brazil just had a massive election recently. By 12 noon, everybody knew who was going to be winning because it was transparently done. But you had Imo State where the Supreme Court also imposed a candidate who was fought in an election and removed the person who won the election. Which Supreme Court are we talking about? I'm not denigrating the judiciary, but I think they've done a poor job at litigating and ruling, on election matters.
Omoyele Sowore, presidential candidate of the African Action Congress called the AAC, is requesting your support to be president, wants to replace President Muhammadu Buhari. One last one from Facebook here says, good morning, I'm Sunday from Jos. Nigeria is controlled by men who hate the people. Will never allow this country to move forward. People like Mr. Sowore will make this country better, but those evil men would never allow him. Quite unfortunate. Thank you, Sunday from Jos, and indeed everybody who's been part of the conversation here on The Big Story today. Yes, this election series continues on The Big Story. We'll be bringing candidates, both presidential, governorship, senatorial candidates your way, and get to engage them some more as to their plans for you. I want to especially thank you, Omoyele Sowore, for coming.
Thank you for bringing me, and once again, happy holidays to our people.
Wish you the very best in your quest to be president.
Hopefully when I see you next time, I'll be president.
Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, hopefully. And then we can shake hands with Mr. President.
Absolutely.
Yeah, before that though.
Yes.
There you go.
Take a picture, show it at the gate of Asura.
All right. That's the show today. Appreciate it. You can see this edition and previous editions of The Big Story across our social media platforms. Thank you indeed. Until Wednesday on The Big Story, Kingsley Bass is my name. Have fun. Bye for now.
Get more information and updates on raveng.tv. Follow and interact with us on our social media platform using the handle @RaveTV channel. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel @Rave TV. Download the Rave TV app on iOS, Windows and Android to view us on the go. Rave TV. So excited.